You are listening to the audiobook Veilshatter, Legends of Elyndar, now available on Amazon, Audible, and wherever books are sold. Featuring our three unforgettable heroes, an epic adventure begins.
Fragments in the Dreamveil. The veil between waking and dream thinned as midnight's tongue licked the arches of Avestra. Liora drifted on the brittle edge of sleep, her skin prickling with the faint, bitter chill of spirit wind leaking through rune-warded glass. Shadows limned the ceiling where her meager candle guttered, unspooled by the eddying presence that haunted this hour, ancient and patient, as if the city itself exhaled her fears back to her. She wandered as ever through fractured memoryscapes. The walls bled with unplaceable colors, sigils turning under her hands like live coins. Each step led her through doors she had never seen, yet always known. Somewhere beyond, her mother's voice, thinner now, but bright as hammered glass, threaded the music of names long since forbidden. Liora chased it down corridors with no seams and all seams. Memory folding upon prophecy, the future crowding in before the past surrendered its hold. Liora. The word quivered, just beyond the reach of thought. She spun in a corridor streaked with narrowing light, pediments carved not in stone, but ripples of living water, every reflection warping her features into someone older, hollower, crowned with ivy shadows. Mother! Her heart quickened. She reached, but the vision spooled away, as if torn by unseen claws. Murmurs unfolded in the absence. Half-remembered prayers, broken runes flaring to life before dispersing like ash. Sickness swamped her, a familiar vertigo. Her soul tugged too thin by yearning. She tasted salt and cinders. Then the deeper nothing pressed in. The air thickened, drenched in absence. Each of her breaths shattered and reformed in her ribs, uneasy and incomplete. Through the rippled dark strode a figure draped in eclipse, eyes hooded, mouth inscrutable, intricately faceless. The folds of its garment hung like veils from a vanished throne, and every motion seemed to distort the dream space, walls stretching, floor fragmenting, the city above trembling in its sleep. A hush stole the dream's air. The Veilborn. She sensed it before she saw. Fractures slashed across the fabric of this world, cold as grave iron, edges flickering with impossible hunger. The figure moved, and realization struck with the sick intimacy of prophecy. She was not only dreaming herself, but being dreamt, her thoughts probed, catalogued, reshaped. Words, not hers, blossomed cold at the base of her skull. Daughter of Mirun. It spoke not in sound, but in echo, a reverberation against her mind's marrow. She staggered back, blocks of memory warping, snippets of childhood blossoming, then withering. Her mother's hand stroking her fevered brow, the taste of mooncakes after spring rains, the way her father stamped runes around the door to keep wakeful spirits outside. A tug, then, something wrenched free like a tooth pulled from bone. She gasped. A hand, the color of morning, extended from the eclipse cloak. Within its grasp, a shard of mirror flickered, hungry for the light. Liora knew, not reason, but soul knowledge, that to meet her own eyes in that glass would be unmaking. You bear the fault line. You would mend what must not be mended. She steeled herself, words thick with fear and defiance. You are only shadow. I carry nothing for you. The emptiness rippled, vast and acknowledging. Yet the figure pressed forward, mirror held high. Liora's vision telescoped inward, tunnel narrow. Behind the Veilborn, the flicker of thousands, faces erased by time, twisted by regret, writhed in vaporous procession. She caught glimpses of erased cities, domes gaping, bridges collapsed into memoryless mist, lives excised as if never lived. She clenched her palms, desperate to summon her will, soul-weaving thrumming wild and uncontrolled beneath her skin, roots twisting through her limbs, each pulse scraping her nerves raw. In waking life, she could have set wards. Here her power knotted, flawed, a blade without hilt. Still, the echo built, a resonance deep as the ocean's siege at moonrise. Mother, help me. For one moment, clarity rimmed the vision. Her mother's silhouette stood at her shoulder, soft, backlit by that impossible sun. A smell, honeyed time, smoke after rain, flooded Liora, tightening her chest, making her almost believe she would see her again. But the Veilborn reached forth, the mirror's edge splitting the dream like a seam. As the vision ruptured, the voices rose, a gale of loss, petition, accusation. Liora, her mother now, clear, so close. A scream shattered the tableau. It cut the world. With a grasping, convulsive motion, Liora awoke. Sweat soaked her tunic, binding it to her spine. Her body cramped with cold, her fists clamped on the bedsheet, hard enough to blanch her knuckles. Avestra's pre-dawn gloom crowded the air, thick and heavy, pressing against her small window, as if the city itself deferred breath. Runes limned the stone with a faint, trembling light, the old protection sigils, now flickering as if wind threatened. Liora pressed her fingers to her chest, heart hammering a pace she couldn't command. Her head buzzed, clouds of pain clustered where the Veilborn's echo had wormed inside. She tried the familiar silent mantra, ordered her thoughts by numerology, mapped the symptoms of intrusion, yet the residue clung fast. Not just a nightmare. Something darker had entered her, left a ghostly throb beneath her skin. A weight of hunger nestled in her bones. She rolled stiffly to her side, breath hitching. Cold moonwater pooled on the lintel, undisturbed, yet she smelled salt. Too much. Not the gentle offering meant to soothe household spirits, but the brisk, briny tang of the Sea of Spires after a storm. The sign of corrupted passage. Avestra offered none of its usual morning clamor. No street menders clinking tools, no chimes of the North Tower, no scrape of carters on distant flagstones. The stillness unnerved her more than memory's agony. It was the hush before a shatter, the moment all breath draws in before the scream. She rose, tremor flickering through her long limbs, and padded to the latticed window. Mist crouched atop the city, pressed flat between the rune-lit arcs and the sloped eaves. Spirit bridges, those delicate lattices arching from spire to spire, thrumming with power she'd once trusted to bear only the dead and the dreaming, sagged, cobweb-fine, their blue fire guttering to sullen embers. She followed one with her eyes. At its far end the lights faltered, nearly extinguished. A patch of darkness lingered, too compact, as though the shadow waited for her gaze. Don't look too long. Memory stirs. That warning, from a lesson once drilled into her by Master Kirill, rattled up now, useless comfort drowned in dread. She tried to compose herself, comb out the ebbing fragments of prophecy and memory the Veilborn had left lodged behind her eyes. It was no use. Her spirit, a thing both wound and weapon to her discipline, slipped against her command. She reached inward, groping with the trained touches of a soul weaver, searching for leaks in the boundaries that disciplined mind from dream, self from not self. She found rents, hair, thin, but deep, as if something had rasped free pieces of her soul in passing. Shivering, Liora drew chalk from beneath her pillow and, with shaking hands, etched the old sigil of warding over heart and brow. The chalk dust shimmered faintly as her will sealed it, though not as brightly as it should have. Instinctively, she searched for the cause. The pulse cost of dream work, perhaps? Or resonance with memory echoes drawn by the Veilborn? Her teachers had always warned, using soul-weaving exhausts not only the mind, but the deep spirit. These were not wounds that sleep could mend. Outside, the nearest lantern guttered, flames twisting blue-black. A city watch patrol passed below, boots clicking in a strange pattern. 2 steps, pause, 2, as if they too marked time against some unknown threat. A sudden pressure brushed her senses, electric as a storm front, but heavier, suggestive of visitors not entirely corporeal. For a blink, she caught the drifting scent of echo memories. Bitter almond, iron, violets faded to dust, threading the air beyond the rune-scribed alleys. Something prowled unseen, scraping against the edge of the world that mortals called safe. Liora. The voice this time belonged to herself, or perhaps the dreaming part that never fully left. Focus! Order! She ran mental patterns, tracing names backwards in Old Merunian, mapping the cycle of gates by moon phase. Each trick steadied her a little, drawing the scattered fragments back into something like selfhood. Yet under her skin, the residue of foreign power pulsed, a rippling parasite that would not sleep. It was as if the Veilborn had set a mark, one hidden even from rune sight and alchemical awareness. Every breath made her wary of herself. A traitor heart, ready to open at the wrong whisper. She moved quietly, cautious of the floor's chill, across the narrow chamber. On her cupboard sat the small reliquary of her mother, a swirl of dark hair bound with gold thread, a single blue bead, and a curl of birch bark inscribed in searing ink. She pressed her forehead to the lid and tried, not for the first time, to drag her mother's memory whole and bright into the present. The dream's voice, her voice, haunted the silence. Liora, always almost heard, always ungraspable. Emotion struck her then, a surge as sharp and unwelcome as the taste of brined steel. Loss, yes, but not only her mother. The feeling was vaster, as if she were standing on the rim of some shared sorrow, one that tunneled through the very stones of Avestra. It was grief braided with foreboding, a plaintive premonition echoing across waking and dream, across all boundaries the runes and magics claimed to hold. She kissed the reliquary's surface, then placed it back, hands steadying. Resolve sparked inside her, guttering but not extinguished. She would not let the Veilborn unmake her piece by piece, nor would she carry its mark into daylight without resistance. A flick across her senses, some phantom breeze, heralded dawn, but the sun did not breach the horizon. Instead, the rune lines atop Avestra's steepest spires glowed wanly, as if fighting back the weight of shadow still pressing at every window. She peered down at the veins of the scholar's ward, uncertain whether she saw true fog or the residue of spirits moving unbidden. She recognized, with the uncanny certainty that belonged to dreamers and seers, that she was not alone in her struggle. Somewhere near, forbidden power twined with waking fear. Others, firstborn, artisans, even commons, must be waking to similar unrest. Did they also dream of the Veilborn, feel their souls bruised by its hunger? Or was she marked alone, avatar, and target alike? Down in the square, a single figure unfurled from shadow. Sen Grell, by the hunch and pace, the heavy hood blotting out half his face. He carried something cradled close, wrapped and marked with runes. Liora straightened, breath misting. If there was sense to be parsed from the night's ordeal, it would begin here. The city bells, at last, sounded the false dawn, their notes deadened as though underwater. Somewhere, a dog barked, muffled and uncertain. On distant bridges, spirit lights guttered and briefly blazed before shivering into nothingness. Liora drew her cloak tight, secured her laced boots. A line of black salt, rough and clotted, marked the threshold of her door, the work of careful hands, a bulwark against echo memories. She towed it aside, well set for what must come. She stepped into the trembling morning, the air humming with stilled potential, grit in her mouth from dreams not wholly gone. She sensed the city's heart waiting, coiled and vigilant. Every stone, every rune, an unasked question. Behind her, the night's wounds lingered. Ahead, the paths glimmered uncertain, veiled in mist and prophecy.